it wasn't because of people feeling bad for him later on. Let's be clear, Imam Hussein gave his life not for us to gather here today to cry. He gave it for the sake of Allah. But Allah honored him by saying to his messenger, cry for Hussein. That's how Allah honors the sacrifice he makes for Allah. Why? Because if you take one step toward Allah, Allah will take hundreds toward you. Allah will never remain in our debt. So when you do something for the sake of Allah, expect you will get more than you deserve. There is a story that Allama Majlisi, if you don't know who Allama Majlisi is, there's a father and son, which Bihar al-Anwar, one of our basically compilation of hadith is written by him or compiled by him. His father, so there's called Majlisi, the first Majlisi, the second Majlisi. The first Majlisi was the students of Sheikh Bahai, a very well-known scholar. He's buried in Mashhad, near the grave and the shrine of Imam Rida alayhi salam. Very well-known scholar. So the first Majlisi was his students. And I want to tie this to two things. One is the last night's subject, which is arrogance, which I give another example. And also to the topic of jahl as well. So he says that I was a teenager, and I was interested. And you can see this father and son, how much they invested their lives to preserve the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. So he said from that young age, I was a teenager, when everybody else was busy playing and having fun, I was sitting in the lessons of Sheikh Abai, and in his class there were hundreds of scholars sitting. And I was a child, basically a teenager, sitting in the midst of them. So one day Sheikh Abai made a case. He basically gave his understanding of his opinion. He said that sometimes some of the narrations that we have, it says that, for example, if you do this good deeds, the reward of that, for example, we have the hadith that if you feed a believer, you make food and you give food to a believer, it has a reward of 1,000 hajj, 1,000 pilgrimage. And Sheikh Abai said, these kind of narrations, it seems to be not that strong, because then it takes away the significance of hajj. It makes it another, mundane thing. So my opinion is that these traditions, we should, tread carefully with them. They're not as reliable. And the first Allama Majlisi, which at the time, he is a teenager, said, I raised my hand and I asked, to object. And he gave me a chance. So I told him that what's wrong if Allah is so generous and merciful that when it comes to Imam Ali alayhi salam, Allah says about them, and this is a mutawatir hadith, this is a successive narration, meaning there's been mentioned so many different chain of narration that everybody agrees is a reliable one, by Shia and Sunni, by all Muslims, that Allah said in the day of Khandaq, ضربة علي في يوم الخندق أفضل من عبادة الثقلين. The strike of Ali, the strike of his sword in the day of Khandaq, which was a day that all the parties were together to destroy Islam and defeat Muslims. Amr ibn Abdul asked, who's going to fight me? Who's brave enough to face me? Nobody answered except Ali ibn Abi Talib. 3 times he stood up. And eventually when he went to the battle, he struck him, defeated him. And that was basically a great, we can call it moral reinforcement. The Muslims got the courage and eventually they defeated the enemy. So then Allah said that the strike of Ali in that day was greater than the worship of the humans and the jinn combined. One strike. And then there's a continuation that we usually don't know. Ila yawm al-qiyamah. Not the one who did it until Imam Ali's. The worship of the humans and the worship of jinn combined until day of judgment, the strike of Ali is greater in reward. So if Allah is so generous and all Muslims agree to give that kind of a reward to one strike, Yes, it's very important, but it's not strike. What's the issue if Allah wants to reward 1,000 Hajj for one good deed? He is generous, not that because we deserve it. He is generous, He is merciful. And I made a few more cases that when Ahlul Bayt, they give 3 loaves of bread. Surah Al-Insan. When a needy knocked at the door, when an orphan knocked at the door, when a captive knocked at the door, what they shared? Loaf of bread, that's all they had. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in return of just giving 3 loaves of bread, revealed 18 verses of Quran. Appreciating, honoring, magnifying their good deeds. And called them abrar, called them the highest of the righteous. What is it wrong if somebody does a good deed, Allah is generous to them? It said, I made my case as a teenager, and Sheikh Abai listened, and after he finished it, you know what? You're right. Your point is valid. In front of all those scholars, he did not say, you don't know, you're too young, attack him, make it a personal case. You made a case. So in that we see the humility, lack of arrogance of Sheikh Abai, and also admission that there are things that we don't know. There's jahl that someone else may know. And that's okay. Maybe sometimes our children says something that could be right. Especially we have our Prophet said, I learned from children. I learned from their lack of attachment to things. Sometimes we lose our mind over stuff. My car is scratched, right? I don't know, my favorite laptop, whatever I have. And then children, you see, they break their toys, they're upset for a few seconds and they're done. I know cases that 10 years ago we lost something. Let's say 10 years ago I made an investment and lost the money. Still don't let go. What a self-inflicting suffering that is. لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم. Stop being despairing over what you have lost. The lost is lost. You remembering that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago something happened is not going to do anything until it's caused you more grief. But the jahl doesn't allow it. Ignorance does not allow it. So what should we do in regard of ignorance? One thing is that we know is a sign of knowledge is that the more you learn, the more you know, the more admission to our ignorance will happen. The less confidence you will have. Yeah, it's good to be confident in your skills, but we should never be confident over how much we know. Never. That's why you see even elders of a scholar, they still read. Ayatollah Sistani is known that he still reads. There's always a marja, millions of people follow him. He still reads newspaper. He still reads the book that they're newly published. He keep in touch with the new releases. And then one of us, someone like me, I've been giving lectures for this amount of time. There's nothing else out there. There's nothing that I did not see. No, there's so much that I don't know. And as parents, is the same thing applicable. Every parent, Imam Ali said, you should learn how to raise your children for their time. And this is one of those words that have been abused. There's so many teaching that is twisted. For example, La ikrah fi din. There is no compulsion in faith. It become an excuse for people to disrespect religion, be offensive, do everything they want, and say, you know what? Quran said there's no compulsion in religion. It's like people say, there is freedom of speech, but you see, there's hate speech. Quickly, whatever you don't like it, there's an exemption. There's freedom, the land of the free, but you cannot break rules. There's prison. There's no mob rule, right? There should be, we are the land of the law as well, rule of the law. So there are exemptions. So yes, there's no compulsion in faith, but it means on you, when it's related to you, you have something that is only on you. But when it comes to the society, when it comes to the gathering, you don't have that freedom. You can come in the middle of a majlis, you cannot come in the middle of a center and do something offensive because there's no compulsion in faith. Go at home, do whatever you want on your own. But when you come to the center, there's a way you have to dress. You don't like it, it's up to you. There's a public space, there are etiquette for it. But people use that. If you advise someone, please dress appropriately. Brother, sister, this is masjid, or this is Imam Barga. There's la ikraha fi din. So yes, there's la ikraha fi din to you, for you. You cannot force your views on others who are here, the majority who are here. Another hadith that is being abused is Imam Ali said, raise your children for their time. And I've seen parents who raise their children totally secular, liberals, no values, nothing. Oh, Imam Ali said. I like they remember this hadith from Ali, not the other thousands of hadith. Raise your children for their time. Well, what their time means, don't expect them to have the same understanding of technology, means, tools as you. The principles are not going to change. Your principles are going to stay the same. An example of that is, let's say, in your time, they would do majalis in a certain way in Urdu. That was the time of them. You live in an Urdu speaking environment, they did Urdu. Your children now, they don't speak Urdu. Unfortunately, I wish they do, but they don't. So know that you have to cater for them. An English speech is not the replacement for an Urdu class. Or Urdu class is not a replacement for religion. People say, Sheikh, if you give your lectures in I say Farsi and Arabic because that's the one they ask me, not Urdu. So if you speak it, they learn. I said, no. When was the last time you learned English by listening to my English lectures as parents? You don't. How do you expect your children to learn Farsi, Urdu, and Arabic from listening to listening to Urdu lecture or Arabic lecture? They're not. Learning language means a different way. So understand there's a time. You chose or you were forced to choose to come and move to this land. You have to come. Public school in Pakistan, everything was good. Public school were fine and safe. Now, the time is shifting, the time is changing. Even Christians and liberals don't want to send their kids to some public schools. They choose not to. Things are going out of hand. So raise your children for their time. You cannot say, oh, I went to public school and I turned out fine. How about your public school is very different from now. Raise them for their time. And another one is that you know that as parents, you need to be familiar with the time. Raise your children for their time, meaning as parents, you cannot say, I don't know what a TikTok is. How can you know not the TikTok and your child has a TikTok? That's a lie we tell ourselves. If they're adult, I get it. But if you have a 10-year-old, if you have a 12-year-old and they have a TikTok, as a parent, it doesn't matter if you're 50 years old. You should know what a TikTok is. You can't say, oh, Sheikh, I'm too old for this. Yes, you're too old for this, but your children are not too old for that, so you have to know. Same as about everything else. I've heard this from naive parents. My daughter is such a quiet kid. My son is such a good boy. They're always in their room. They don't bother anyone. MashaAllah. I'm not suspicious of them, but what do you mean? Because they don't bother you, they don't distract you, because then you can do your own thing. You can watch your dramas on TV, right? That does not make it perfect. That's not raising your children for their time. And we always appreciate a pat in the back, right? You did a good job, mashallah. But that's not a lecture for it. Maybe you talk to someone, inshallah. That's what friends are for. That's why you have people to vent and they tell you know what, things are difficult, things will get better. But in a lecture, we have to learn. We have to learn how to face challenges, address the problem. And then after a while, we say, you know what? I don't understand. My daughter doesn't want to talk to me. My son doesn't want to talk to me. Baba, for 3-4 years, they've been missing. You are happy that they're in their room. They start new friendships. They talk to other people. They have friends on, on social media, they have friends on their gaming console, they have friends, all kind of friends, they have different level of friends. And now they don't talk to me. What do you expect? Suddenly out of the blue, now they're going to just say, pour their hearts over and say everything to you? So we need to learn about what's going on around us. And that's for me as well. If I want to continue with giving lecture in it's not going to work. The lecture that I give over there is very different. It doesn't have the same need. Yes, the principles are the same. Still they talk about arrogance. Yes, still they talk about Quran. They still about the Imam Hussain. But the illness is not necessarily the symptoms are not the same way. I have to know the symptom. And did I say I accomplished it? No. Work in progress, under construction. Still work. So a lot of work has to be done. So jahl and ignorance is the first step of it is when you think you know too much. That's the highest form of ignorance. Overconfidence to our knowledge, that's ignorance. You see, the experts of every field, one thing they admit is, we know nothing. The guy is an atheist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist. He's an atheist. Once in a while, he likes to be in the middle of the social media disputes as well. I think one big mess he made was, he talked about Ramadan and iftar time. If you don't know who he is, he said, I'm not an expert in religion, but the word layl, night, because I'm an astrophysicist, I'm going to come to night and all that. I think the time you break your fast, referring to majority of Muslim, the non-Shia, you're not doing it right, because layl is not then. You have to wait a few minutes. And then I know the Shias went crazy. We are doing it the way you say it. And back then I said the same thing. I said, don't be happy. The guy is not taking your side. One day is like this and 20 other things is against you. Don't take that and start making an icon out of him, because 2 days later he's the one who's going to undermine your entire faith. Don't say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. There's no such a thing. We have theological differences, we have fiqh differences, and that's it. We will resolve among ourselves. We don't need someone who doesn't know anything to tell us. We don't. Good for him. This is his opinion. But this is a guy, I like one thing he said. He said, even when after I have my PhD, we become clear there's much more unknown in existence. And then you have those who, again, they know a bit, and we think we are a mujtahid. Why I have to follow Sayyid Sistani in Najaf? I know enough about religion to make my own rules. Before I get there, the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein by Imam Sadr, Imam says, addressing Imam Hussein, that you gave your blood, you gave the blood of your heart, your life, for the sake of Allah. لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ. It was in order to save the servants of Allah from ignorance. You gave your life for the sake of Allah, because the way you can defeat the ignorance of the time was to make a stand. Otherwise people will follow that ignorance. Will still follow. Allah knew how much Bani Umayyah was still in power if Imam Hussein would not make that sacrifice. And Allah knew what would have been left out of Islam. Let's be very clear. So you gave your life to save the servants of Allah from ignorance, وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ, and from the confusion of misguidance. They were lost. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know who to follow. So your sacrifice gave them that. So in the narration, Imam alayhi salam differentiates between the real knowledge, which is an antidote of ignorance, versus the fake one. So this is the narration we're going to, they call them the imposters again, those who pretend to be scholars, they want to be scholars. وَآخَرُ قَدْ تُسَمَّى عَالِمًا وَلَيْسَ بِهِ. This is from Nahj al-Balagha, sermon 87. He said, but the other, Imam talks about different kind of imposters. The other one is the one who call himself or herself knowledgeable, scholar, but they're not. فاقتبس جهائل من جهال. He make the claim in order to have followers, so they care how much people follow them. That's their objective. The objective is not to educate. The objective is not to enlighten, to show them the path. The wannabe scholar, the fake scholar, cares about followers. They brag about it. Oh, how many people are following me? How many people watch me? How many people? وَأَضَالِيلَ مِنْ ضُلَّالٍ. When he gives the lesson, when he teaches people, he mixes the misguidance and guidance together. He shares things that he is not certain of as well. So let's say he has some ideas, and unfortunately we have that. We have speakers, Allah guide all of us, starting with me, and protect us, that we go on a minbar and we start thinking out loud. I have some doubts or questions or ideas, and I start saying it publicly on a minbar. And I call this critical thinking minbar, right? An educational one. So Sheikh Abai, when he was making that point, he was teaching a class for scholars. That's where it is. It's a back and forth. You have to recognize the audience. On a minbar is not a place that for you to come and start playing trials and errors. So Imam alayhi salam said the jahil, the fake alim is the one that they mix misguidance with guidance. Obviously they say the Bismillah, obviously they do the religious part, but in the middle you see they go off, sideways. They say something which again is undermining everything else they say. It's a lot of contradiction. They talk about following the religion of Allah, and then suddenly you see they make fun of some of the rules of the religion. It's very bizarre. Alhamdulillah, there are not that many of them, and alhamdulillah, our communities usually recognize them. They're not the one that usually get a lot of popularity in our communities, because people point it out. The inconsistencies, the bizarre ideas. But unfortunately, they find a small following. Which again, even if you misguide one person, I don't know. I think I have a hard time to think of how can I answer for myself. Imagine if I drag now a group of people with me. And Allah said, okay, now answer for them. They were doing the right thing until you said otherwise. What are you going to say? How you came up with that idea? And then there's a longer one, look at it yourself. There's, I think, 10 signs of the fake or imposter scholars. But one more I say, inshallah, to be able to conclude at the right time. One more that Imam salam said is that يُؤَمِّنُ النَّاسِ مِنَ الْعَظَائِمِ. I wanted to think about this. Who said this? Ali ibn Abi Talib ibn Najib al-Awai. When he said it? 1400 years ago. But when I read it, it's as if Imam is talking to us, what we see right now. Especially on social media, especially online. Imam said the one who call himself or herself alim, knowledgeable, scholar, but they're not. Another one is that they make people safe to commit major sins. They downplay major sins. They say it's not a big deal. Allah just look at your hearts. It's all about your true connection. You think Allah cares if you do this or not? I've seen it, speakers, okay. Handshake with a non-mahram. In our religion, handshake with the one who's not mahram, stranger, it's not family, it's not spouse and all that, the categories, is haram. Does it happen? It may happen, it's still a sin. Are there exceptions? Maraj said, yes, there are cases. If it causes you unbearable harm and hardship, there are cases that can be permissible. Meaning, like let's say it's permissible if let's say your life depends on it to even eat haram meat, right? If there is a situation that your livelihood depends on it and it's unbearable hardship, if you can do it with gloves or something, you do it. Are they applicable or not? That's a different story. It's a sin. And someone say, you know what? It's not a big deal. Nowadays, it's a different meaning. There is no real intimacy there. There is no lust there. Who gave me that authority to change it? If you do it, it's a haram. If you see me do a handshake, it's haram. And I admit it's haram. It was my weakness and all that. But it come to the member and say, you know what? If you saw me doing it, it's because now it, God forbid, changed. The rules are now different. No. There's justification. And Imam said, you see, the imposter is the one who make the major sins. People, yu'ammin an-nas. People say, you know what? You're safe from that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it means feel safe around major sins. When Quran says opposite, when Ahlul Bayt said opposite, اجتنبوا كبائر الإثم. You have to stay away. You have to avoid major sins. This person says the other way. Why? I ask you why. It's tied to the number one. Because when you say it, you have more followers. When you say it, you will get more followers. It's easier. This guy is easygoing one. I see people who take classes. I was talking to some of the youth. You see the subject they choose. I don't know the history of this, the pop culture and the cinema. So, okay, these are, I know they're general ed, they're elective, but why are you taking them? Are you interested in this? And no, but we checked, they're very easygoing teachers. They give easy A's. So meaning a teacher is not about lesson, it's about him being easygoing. And a scholar is not about the content of the lecture now it matters. It's about, oh, he's an easygoing. He's easygoing. Everything is fine, everybody's happy, everybody's good. There's nothing that you do self-critical or self-assessment. It is what it is. You are who you are. Of course you're going to have followers. And then, وَيُهَوِّنُ كَبِيرَ الْجَرَائِمِ. And he's the one who make the crimes to be insignificant in the eyes of people. So read the hadith, read the sermon itself. Sermon 87 of Nahj al-Balagha. So here the not knowledgeable one. So opposite of that means these are the jahils who pretend. These are the ignorants who are pretending or assuming they're knowledgeable. Who is the knowledgeable? So this, if you talk about jahil, then Imam Ali himself says who are the true knowledgeable ones. Recite salawat ala Muhammad. Imam alayhi salam says, إن العالم من عرف أن ما يعلم فيما لا يعلم قليل فعد نفسه بذلك جاهلا. Number one, it's what I said, this is Imam Ali's wisdom. Is that the first sign of a true knowledgeable scholar is that they know about their ignorance. They're aware of their lack of knowledge. The more they know, the more it becomes clear they don't know anything. That's why they're humble. That's why they're not arrogant. Because the more they learn, one thing becomes clear, there's not, because I thought I know everything, but there's more to learn. There's more to learn. There's more to know. That's number one. Number two, فَازْدَادَ بِمَا عَرَفَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ فِي طَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ اجْتِهَادًا. After, number one, they know the ignorance. Number two, after they know they're ignorant, they seek knowledge. They work hard to get it. They run after knowledge. When somebody's talking, they try to listen. Because sometimes we make the decision in advance. There's nothing this person can say that I don't know. That's the arrogance behind it. And unfortunately, partial knowledge makes us like that. When I know bits here and there, when I know clips, then I think I know it. I watch a couple of videos here and there, I have a couple of short clips on this subject, I know it. God forbid if you listen to a podcast on the subject, then that's a different story. But a true knowledgeable person understands, I know nothing. And I need to learn more. I need to cover the gap of my knowledge. And as a result of that, ijtihad, I seek knowledge. That's why they call a mujtahid. Our scholars, maraji, they call mujtahid. What's mujtahid? The one who struggles, the one who works hard to get knowledge. That's what said Sistani and other Maraji are. Marja is their public position, the one that people go to get answers about their jurisprudential matters. Mujtahid is their knowledgeable, is their scholarly position. They do ijtihad, they come to a point they can extrapolate Islamic laws. Number 3, the real scholar, the real knowledgeable. فما يزال للعلم طالبا وفيه راغبا وله مستفيدا ولأهله خاشعا. The third sign is that they are humble. The more they learn, the more the humility is. The metaphor is being used is like a tree. The more fruits it has, the branches, usually they lower, the weight bring them closer to the earth, more accessible. The wannabes are the one, you cannot find them that easy. Talk to my secretary of secretary. I know people are busy, I get it. But if you're here right now talking to me, talk to me. No, the way I do things is that I need this and I need this, and they play so many lines that they make it not accessible. It's unfortunate. I've seen that they prioritize wealthy over poor. They could be all knowledgeable, but when it comes to lack of humility, that's a sign of jahl. The true knowledgeable becomes more humble. Number 4 is that they exercise silence, meaning that their silence has meaning as well. Meaning sometimes they choose to be quiet, and their silence does not mean they have nothing to say. They choose to be silent. There's meaning behind their silence. That's the truest scholar. And then, one more, again, I leave the rest of it, inshallah, to read it yourself, which come to number 5, is that they're not embarrassed to admit they don't know. To say, I do not know, it's not a heavy statement for them. When they don't know, they say, I do not know. That's it. This is a true scholar. The true scholar is not the one who says, you know what? There's nothing you can ask me. There's only one who can say, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni. Ask me before you lose me. And that is Ahlul Bayt and Ali ibn Abi Talib. When it comes to us, I said, you quite often see, if you ask me, I've said it before and I will say it again, inshallah, until I'm alive. When I don't know, I don't know. Ask. And that does not make me great. It makes me jahil on that matter. I don't know. Allama Tabari is called Allama. And by the way, the Hawza Allama is not a title you get that easily. It's a position that only is reserved for certain scholars who are very well versed on the subject. Allama. When he was asked a question, he would repeat it 3 times. La adri, la adri, la adri. Which means I do not know. Translate, I don't know. And when as a student told him, 1 time is sufficient. When you say 3 times, it has a different implication. He said, no, I want my students to know that their teachers have gaps of knowledge. There are things that they don't know. So if that's for me, how much they should be seeking knowledge and try not to be embarrassed to say. Because now I'm setting an example. And sometimes if your children ask you, it's okay to say, I do not know, but I will look up. I will look for it. You teach them something. Infants, no, please don't say to a 3-year-old you don't know. Do not scare them. Because we have the hadith that young infants and children, they look at you as God. God forbid, it's not a good comparison. Rabb, like a Lord. Because they see your hand. They don't know anything else. They know you. That's why they're so attached. So do not make them lose the trust to you. But after they pass that age of childhood, dependency, then you slowly tell them, there are things I don't know, but I will learn. You teach them that. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Him to grant us the tawfiq that what we learn and what we are able to oppose ignorance and jahl, Allah give us the tawfiq of practice, implementation, exercise. Otherwise, if I know and I don't do it, which it could be like relevant, it's relatively applicable to all of us, right? It could be someone who say, you know what, you don't smoke, but I smoke, God forbid. You don't do this, you don't do riba, don't gossip, but I do. Don't curse, but when I get angry, because I've seen double standard, and children know double standard, right? There is zero tolerance policy in the house for curse, God forbid, right? It's a good thing, but only the zero tolerance is on English cursing. If it comes to the other languages, it's cultural. You know I didn't mean it. What do you mean you didn't mean it? If there's curse, it's curse. An admission of that, it's a long way of practicing what we know. The less the double standard, the better. The double standard sometimes is that, okay, I have to eat more because I'm a grown-up, you're not. That's okay. These are justifiable. It has to be different standard. But when it comes to the situation that there should not be any room for double standard. Honesty. Cannot be double standard. Honesty is honesty. When it comes to standing for the truth and haqq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the honor of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, as Imam al-Sadiq said, he sacrificed his life to free his servants, to release them from ignorance. May Allah, through the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant our hearts knowledge and ilm that is beneficial to our dunya and akhirat affairs. And may Allah grant us aql and empowerment of our intellect through the majalis of Imam al-Hussein with the salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Let's dedicate tonight's majlis to another messenger of Imam Hussein. Last night we did say the Zainab, we recited for her. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to recite for Imam Sajjad, Imam Zain al-Abidin. I know that there is the Shahada of Imam Sajjad coming up, but usually that's the way I choose to recite Musibah in order to honor the next Imam, the one who also, his sermons, his speeches exposed Bani Umayyah and made sure that the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein will not be forgotten and will not be ignored. When they brought Imam Zain al-Abidin to Kufa, Ibn Ziyad asked, who is this man? I thought we killed all their men. Because the only man among the captives, Usara, was Imam Zain al-Abidin. And they told him, he is Ali ibn al-Hussein. He is Ali son of Hussein. And he said, I thought Ali son of Hussein, Allah killed him in the day of Ashura. Allah killed him in Karbala. Look at Imam Zain al-Abidin, that does not allow misinformation, lies to spread like this. Imam looked at him and said, that was my older brother Ali al-Akbar, that people killed him, not Allah. You cannot attach your crimes in the name of Allah. That's one of the ignorances of the time, that people thought anyone who's in power, Allah wanted them to be power. If he is Yazid, Allah wanted them to be in power. And unfortunately, that ignorance still exists till this day. Till this day. The most corrupt rulers, they rule over Muslim land, and they said Allah wanted them to be in charge. And Imam al-Islam answered, that's not it. Ali ibn Abi Talib removed governors who were not following the justice, fairness among people. Because it's not a matter of people justifying their crimes in the name of Allah. And that's why one way was to through those lectures, speeches. Another way that Imam Zain al-Abidin made sure people do not forget Imam al-Hussein was through Musibah recitation, lamentation, and grieving for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It's been said that there are bakka'un, there are those who cried continuously. One was Adam alayhi salam. When Allah demoted him from that garden to the earth, he cried continuously until Allah forgave him, until Allah accepted his repentance. The other one was Yaqub alayhi salam. And he cried in the absence of Yusuf. until the Quran says he cried until فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ, that his eyes وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ, his eyes turned white, meaning the cornea stopped functioning, until he turned blind out of crying. And Quran talks about it. And Allah does not blame Ya'qub. Those who say, why you cry for Hussein? He's with Allah. He made a sacrifice for Allah. Why are you crying? Remember that Ya'qub alayhi salam was separated from Yusuf, but he cried until he lost his eyesight. We're never ever coming close to that. And Allah does not blame Ya'qub alayhi salam. How can we not cry for something that Rasulullah cried before time, before the event itself? So they ask Imam Zain al-Abidin, Ya ibn Rasulullah, years later, enough is enough. You cried enough, you remembered enough. Isn't it the time for you to change this, not to cry quite often? Because you see water, the moment you see water, you cry. When you see an infant, you cry. When you see they slaughter a sheep in front of you, you cry. There's so many moments for you that you cry. We're concerned for your health, we're concerned for you. And Imam said to them that Ya'qub alayhi salam was only separated from his son. And he only saw the bloody shirt of Yusuf. When his brothers returned, they told their father that the wolf attacked them, and they brought a shirt, a bloody shirt as a sign. And he cried until he lost his eyesight. How can I not cry that within a span of a few hours, 18 of my family members were not only separated from me, but I saw not only their bloody clothes, but also their bodies. I saw their heads on the spear from manzil to manzil. From one station to another station, they made sure that the family of Abu Abdullah look at the head of Shuhada. Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah. Imam al-Sajjad told them that I saw the head of my father when they brought us to Kufa, and they carried the head of my uncle Abbas, the head of my brother Ali al-Akbar. And they asked Imam al-Sajjad, which one was the most difficult time for you, Ya ibn Rasulullah? Which difficult bala was the one that you remember the most? And Imam repeated 3 times, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. When they brought us to the city of Sham, he didn't mention as the most difficult to be the day of Ashura or the evening of Ashura or Sham Ghariban. He said that when they brought us to the city of Sham, they made us wait behind the gate for a few days until they decorated the city, until they were ready for celebration. And when they brought us, Sayyidah Zainab looked at them and said, make sure to take us from an entrance that there are not that many stranger eyes prying on us. We don't want you. Look at these children, look at these women. You did not let us to cover ourselves properly. Let us be and with our modesty as we enter. And we have that they ordered to enter them from the gate of ours, the gate of Sa'ad, which was the busiest of the routes. And as they brought them inside the city of Sham, they started celebrating, they started clapping, dancing from the rooftops, and they are calling the family of Rasulullah Khariji. These are the Khariji, these are the apostate, these are the one who left Islam. Look at the audacity of the one who killed the beloved of Rasulullah, the one who killed and martyred the master of the youth of paradise, and now they are calling Zayn al-Abidin, the beauty of worshipper Khariji. As Imam says, as they brought us to the streets of Sham, they're calling us with names, they're attacking us, they're throwing rocks at us, and they made sure they brought the head of Shahada in front of women and children. An old man came to Imam al-Sajjad and started cursing Imam alayhi salam. And Imam, after he finished, looked at him and said, "Oh man, do you know who we are?" He said, "No, I know who you are. You are the enemies of Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazid. May Allah remove his mercy from Yazid." So the old man said, "Yeah, you are the enemies of him, you are the Khariji." And Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam said, "Oh man, have you recited Quran? Have you recited إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت. He said, of course, I'm a Muslim. I recited Quran. And Imam said, oh man, indeed we are the Ahlul Bayt. Indeed we are the household of Rasulullah. Have you recited قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلَكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, to show love and compassion to the family of Rasulullah? He said, yes, I'm a Muslim. I've recited it. And Imam said, indeed we are the Qurba of Rasulullah. And said, who are you? We didn't know who you are. They didn't introduce us to you, and that who is your family? And Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam said, I am the son of Hussein, the son of Ali and Fatima. I am the son of the beloved of Rasulullah. And the old man, as he heard, look at the ignorance. Look at the ignorance that people of Sham did not even know Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, did not know Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. They were deprived of that. And Imam alayhi salam, when he told them, the man said, please forgive me. If I knew such a thing, I will never utter any word. May Allah forgive me for my insults. Is there anything I can do for you? And what Imam alayhi salam said burns the heart of every believer. He said, oh man, I have two requests from you. The first is, if you can bring me some cloth, some fabrics. There have been days that my body has been burned by these chains around my neck, that the scorching sun been making all these chains, these iron chains, to burn my skin. If you can put something between these shackles and chains and my body. And the second request I have, can you give some money to these soldiers to move forward? Because I see every time my aunt Zainab see the head of my father Hussein, I see every time my aunt Kulthum see the head of my father Hussein and the rest of Shuhada, it brings the pain to them. It is like salt on their wounds. Can you ask them to move forward? And the old man said, I will do. He gave some money to the soldiers, but it was not for long until they entered the courtyard of Yazid. And now they've been for a moment, they did not see the head of Abu Abdullah. The soldier moved forward, but when they entered the Majlis of Sharab, this is the drinking party for them, they saw the head of Abu Abdullah, and they placed it in a bucket, and as he is drinking wine, he is pouring wine over the head of Abu Abdullah. And Zainab said, oh Yazid, stop doing that. I saw Rasulullah himself kissing the head of Hussein. وعلى لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Ya Allah, by the honor of Imam Zain al-Abidin, by the honor of Sayyidah Zainab, Ya Allah, grant knowledge and ilm who is beneficial to the affairs of our dunya and akhirah. Ya Allah, hasten in return and the coming and reappearance of Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr al-Zaman. Ya Allah, bring an end to the suffering of all the madlumeen, all the oppressed of the world, especially through the coming of the Imam Zaman, because his return is the ultimate relief for all humanity. Ya Allah, we ask you to fulfill the hajat, the requests of all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, anyone who requested dua for them. Ya Allah, grant them strength and patience, and grant them what is good for them, what is khair for them in their dunya and akhirah. And Ya Allah, we ask you to bless the soul of all of our marhameen, all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially the marhameen who sponsored these majalis, especially Sayyid Hussein Yar Khan, Sayyid Zakir Ali, Sayyid Asif Hassan, Sayyid Zain al-Abidin Razoui, Sayyid Farooq Ali Khan, Ismat Sultana, Riyaz Begum, Nasim Fatima, Sayyid Abbas Ali Khan, and Mirza Khuda Khuli Khan, and all the other marhameen, with recitation of Surah Fatiha and Salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Jazakumullah khair. Again, thank you for honestly tolerating me for the past 10 days or 12 nights of the majalis. But my du'as is that inshallah you keep me in your du'as, keep my family in your du'as, and if you can also remember my father. For all the marhumin, inshallah, if you can say Surah Fatiha for my father, I would really appreciate. Jazakumullah khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.